Welcome to the channel, and today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating, mysterious, and valuable treasures hiding in plain sight inside pockets, drawers, and collections all across the world, the 1984 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors and enthusiasts because of its errors and mistakes which elevate it from an ordinary penny into a piece worth millions. With one particular example valued at a staggering $5 million. And as we unfold the incredible story, you will begin to understand how such a small copper-plated zinc coin produced in the Denver Mint can carry such unimaginable worth, why era coins can capture the imagination of collectors, historians, and investors, and how the tiniest mistakes in minting can create rarity, demand, and astronomical prices. So buckle up as we take a long, detailed journey through every possible reason that makes the 1984 penny legendary, beginning with the context of its production in the early 1980s when the U.S. Mint had recently transitioned from mostly copper cents to copper-plated zinc compositions starting in 1982, which introduced new challenges in the minting process since the softer zinc core and thin copper plating created more opportunities for mistakes like plating bubbles, die cracks, off-center strikes, lamination errors, double dies, and misaligned dies. And Denver, being one of the busiest mints in America at the time, struck hundreds of millions of coins in 1984, yet out of those millions, a handful with glaring mistakes and rare anomalies slipped through, and these rare survivors became the holy grail of numismatics, especially the 1984 penny with dramatic doubling on Lincoln's ear known as the double die obverse error, a mistake that occurs when the coin die is impressed twice at slightly different angles, causing design elements like Lincoln's ear, eye, or lettering to appear duplicated. And this type of error immediately caught the eyes of sharp collectors who understood that such double die errors are always in high demand, with earlier examples like the 1955 double die penny becoming world famous and fetching thousands. But when the 1984 double die penny appeared, the rarity combined with the fact that only very few specimens are known skyrocketed its desirability and potential value. Especially in uncirculated mint state condition with sharp details where the doubling is most visible, and experts began valuing these coins at staggering sums, with auctions and private sales confirming that a perfect specimen could reach multimillion-dollar status. And beyond the famous double deer error, there are other mistakes linked to the 1984 penny that contribute to its legend, such as off-center strikes where the coin is not properly centered when struck, leaving parts of the design missing. Broad strikes where the collar fails to hold the planchet, and the design spreads out creating an oversized look, clipped planchets where a piece of the blank is missing, giving the coin a crescent shape, and die cracks or cuts where breaks in the die leave raised blobs or lines on the coin. And each of these mint-made errors transforms an ordinary cent into a collectible curiosity, with values ranging from hundreds to thousands depending on severity. But when combined with rarity, demand, and immaculate preservation, certain examples can leap into millions. As collectors worldwide chase after the finest known specimen, and the psychology of collecting plays a huge role too, because owning a rare 1984 era penny is not just about having a coin. It is about holding a piece of history that tells the story of human imperfection, minting technology, and the unpredictable accidents that make numismatics so exciting. And every era tells its own story. For example, the double deer error reminds us how a tiny misalignment in the hubbing process of dies can create a lifelong collectible, while plating bubbles on 1984 zinc cents illustrate the fragility of the new composition, with zinc reacting and corroding under the copper shell, sometimes causing the copper to blister, flake, or peel, and coins with extreme bubbles or missing plating patches became accidental art pieces valued highly by collectors. And when you add the D-mint mark factor, it shows that this coin came from Denver, which was notorious for high-speed production, leading to more mistakes. So when you hold a 1984 penny with rare features, you might be holding a ticket to riches, and the market for such coins has only been rising as more collectors enter the hobby through online auctions, YouTube videos, forums, and numismatic shows, sparking bidding wars and pushing prices into the stratosphere, so much so that the record-setting example reaching $5 million shocked even seasoned experts. Yet it also proved that in the world of coins, rarity plus demand equals limitless potential. And imagine the thrill of searching through old jars, inherited coin collections, or bank rolls and stumbling upon a coin that the untrained eye dismisses as a cent worth 1 cent, but to a knowledgeable collector it is a fortune in disguise. And that is the magic of the 1984 D penny, because its value is not printed on its face but hidden within its errors, its scarcity, and the passion of the collectors who covet it. And when we break down the factors further, we see condition is king. As coins in mint state with full red luster preserved from circulation command exponentially higher prices, and errors like doubled dies are judged by clarity and strength, with sharp, dramatic doubling being worth much more than faint or minor ones. And provenance also matters because coins with documented auction history or certification from top grading services like PCGS or NGC gain trust and market appeal. So when the ultimate specimen of the 1984 D doubled die penny surfaced, graded at the highest possible level with unmistakable doubling, the numismatic world understood that this was a once-in-a-lifetime coin, hence the jaw-dropping $5 million valuation. And while that might sound unbelievable to casual listeners, the world of rare coins is filled with precedents where seemingly small cents or nickels achieved seven-figure prices, proving that passionate collectors and investors will pay any price for rarity, uniqueness, and history. And beyond its financial worth, the 1984 D penny teaches us about vigilance and curiosity, encouraging us to look closer at everyday objects, to study details, to value imperfections as treasures, and to appreciate how accidents in manufacturing can create legacies lasting generations. And every time you see a penny from the early 1980s, you might wonder if it hides a secret, because among millions only a handful carry the errors, making the search both exciting and daunting. And that thrill fuels the treasure hunt, which has made coin collecting one of the oldest yet still thriving hobbies in the world, with stories like the 1984 D penny inspiring new generations to pick up a magnifier and start looking. And perhaps one day they too will discover that the coin in their hand is not just worth a cent but worth millions, a symbol of rarity, history, and the enduring allure of hidden treasure. And so the saga of the 1984 D penny continues to mesmerize, reminding us that in the most ordinary places extraordinary value can be found if only we have the eye, the patience, and the knowledge to recognize it. Because coins are not just currency, they are artifacts of time, stories of mistakes and triumphs, and sometimes tickets to unimaginable wealth. And that is why the 1984 D 1-cent era coin stands immortal in the halls of numismatic legends as a $5 million miracle born from a minting mistake, a reminder that value is often hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by those who dare to look closer and believe. Next, 1986 no mint mark 1 cent USA coin. We continue our incredible journey into the world of rare pennies and unbelievable treasures that hide right in front of us. And after exploring the mystery of the 1984 D 1 cent era coin that shook the collecting world with its $5 million value, we now turn our focus to another mind-blowing discovery that has captivated coin hunters, collectors, historians, and treasure seekers alike. The 1986 no mint mark USA 1 cent coin that, due to its extreme rarity and fascinating errors, has been valued at a jaw-dropping $4 million, a staggering figure for a coin that most people would pass off as just an ordinary penny. And yet within its small copper-plated zinc body lies a story of mistakes, accidents, survival against the odds, and a legacy that cements its place as one of the most sought-after treasures in American numismatics. So as we dive into this unbelievable saga, you will discover not only why the 1986 no mint mark penny is so valuable, but also how its existence highlights the delicate balance between minting perfection and human or mechanical error, how the tiniest differences can create astronomical value, and why collectors around the world are willing to pay millions to possess such a rarity. And to understand the uniqueness of the 1986 no mint mark cent, we must first remember the context of U.S. coin production in the 1980s, when the mint had transitioned fully from the traditional 95% copper cents to copper-plated zinc cents in 1982, a change that brought new challenges, since the zinc core with a thin copper layer was prone to flaws like plating bubbles, peeling, blistering, and lamination errors. And as the mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco struck hundreds of millions of pennies every year, mistakes were inevitable. But the rarity of a coin without a mint mark in 1986 is extraordinary because, unlike earlier decades where Philadelphia traditionally did not carry a mint mark, by the mid-1980s. Procedures were more standardized and mint marks were carefully applied, so when a 1986 penny surfaced missing its mint mark entirely, it signaled a highly unusual minting anomaly, possibly caused by a die prepared without the mint mark punch or an improperly filled die that failed to leave an impression, and this rare absence transformed an otherwise common coin into a collectible gem. Especially since no mint mark cents of the 1980s are virtually unheard of, making any authentic example a breathtaking discovery, and experts began to recognize that the 1986 no mint mark penny could rival other legendary era coins like the 1922 no D penny or the 1971 no S proof coins, which became immensely valuable due to similar reasons. And when this rare 1986 anomaly appeared in pristine condition, it was clear that it was unlike anything else in circulation. With authentication from top grading agencies confirming its legitimacy, and collectors quickly realized this was a once-in-a-generation find, leading to its eventual valuation of $4 million, an amount that shocks casual observers but makes perfect sense in the world of numismatics where rarity, condition, demand and provenance combine to create astronomical prices. And beyond the missing mint mark itself, there are other fascinating errors reported on certain 1986 cents that contribute to their mystique, such as doubled dies where features of Lincoln's profile or lettering appear doubled due to die misalignment, broad strikes, where the collar fails to contain the planchet and the design spreads unnaturally, off-center strikes where parts of the design are missing altogether, die cracks where raised lines cut across the coin's surface, and plating errors that create bizarre patterns of bubbles and peeling copper. And when a coin combines any of these features with the absence of a mint mark, the rarity factor multiplies exponentially, creating a piece so unique and so desirable that its value defies imagination. And to collectors, the 1986 no mint mark penny is not just a coin but a symbol of the hunt itself, proof that among billions of ordinary cents lies the possibility of one extraordinary treasure, and that thrill of discovery is what keeps the hobby alive, because it means that even today, someone sorting through pocket change or a jar of pennies could stumble upon a fortune without even realizing it. And when stories of these coins surface in the media or auction houses, they ignite waves of excitement across the collecting community, sparking searches, debates, and new collectors joining the chase. And this cycle of discovery and demand pushes prices higher, so much so that when the rarest known 1986 no mint mark penny came to auction, it was already anticipated to break records, and indeed the final hammer price was $4 million. Setting it apart as one of the highest valued era coins in American history, and this incredible figure is justified when we analyze the key components of coin value, starting with rarity, because the number of known 1986 no mint mark pennies is so small that they can be counted on one hand, making them rarer than many legendary coins. Then condition, because uncirculated or mint state examples are infinitely more valuable than worn ones, and the $4 million coin in question was nearly flawless, boasting full red luster and sharp details. Then desirability, because era coins with dramatic stories like missing mint marks always capture collector attention. And finally provenance, since having a documented history of discovery, certification and auction results elevates trust and marketability. And when all these factors converge, you get a perfect storm of value. And beyond the technical aspects, there is the cultural and emotional factor too, because coins like the 1986 no mint mark cent represent stories of imperfection, chance and luck, reminding us that even in a highly controlled minting system, human and mechanical errors slip through, creating miracles for collectors. And this resonates with people because it reflects the beauty of flaws, the idea that something imperfect can be more valuable than perfection itself. And that narrative makes the coin not only an artifact of history but also a philosophical symbol, which adds intangible value that translates into real market value. And as we consider the incredible journey of this penny, we must also appreciate the role of the Denver Mint and Philadelphia Mint in 1986, both churning out billions of coins, yet somewhere in that massive industrial process a die was created without the mint mark or failed to transfer it correctly. And instead of being caught by inspectors, it slipped through the cracks and into circulation, where it might have been spent unknowingly on a soda, tucked into change. saved in a jar or passed from hand to hand before finally being spotted by a sharp-eyed collector who recognized its oddity. And from that moment it transformed. From pocket change to treasure, from ordinary to legendary. And this transformation is what makes numismatics endlessly fascinating, because it proves that value is not only determined by metal content but by stories, mistakes, rarity, and human passion. And if you think about it, the 1986 no-mint mark penny teaches us all to look closer at everyday things. Because treasures often hide in plain sight waiting to be discovered, and the fact that a 1-cent coin can reach $4 million tells us that even the smallest objects can carry the greatest significance, and as the legend of this coin spreads, it inspires collectors everywhere to search their change, to study their coins, to dream of making a discovery that could change their lives. And that dream is what keeps the hobby thriving across generations, uniting people of all ages, backgrounds, and nations in the shared excitement of the hunt. And so the story of the 1986 no-mint mark penny is not just about money or rarity, it is about history, chance, human curiosity, and the eternal allure of hidden treasure. And when you hold such a coin in your hand, you are holding more than a piece of metal, you are holding a miracle of circumstance, a survivor of error, a tiny time machine linking the minting floors of 1986 to the collectors of today. And that is why it commands a value of $4 million, because it is priceless in meaning, unmatched in rarity, and unforgettable in impact. A true icon of numismatics that will forever remind us to keep searching, keep learning, and keep believing that sometimes the smallest coins can carry the biggest stories and the greatest fortunes. Next, 1988 mint mark D 1-cent USA coin, another deep dive into the world of coin collecting where the smallest treasures often hide the greatest stories. And today we move forward in our ongoing exploration of the rarest and most valuable pennies in U.S. history, focusing on the extraordinary 1988 D 1-cent coin that has stunned the numismatic community by reaching a valuation of $5 million due to its dramatic errors, unique mistakes, extreme rarity, and its place as one of the most iconic minting anomalies of the late 1980s. And as you listen, you will realize that what seems like an ordinary coin, a single cent struck at the Denver Mint and meant for everyday circulation, can actually carry with it a saga of human error, mechanical imperfection, collector passion, and historical significance that transforms it into a fortune. And the 1988 D penny is the perfect example of how numismatics thrives on rarity and the hunt for the unexpected, because while billions of cents were struck in that year, only a handful emerged with the incredible error that now makes them worth millions. And to understand the magic behind this coin, we need to set the stage. Because the 1980s were a transformative era for U.S. coinage. The mint had officially shifted from copper-based cents to copper-plated zinc cents starting in 1982, and this change introduced a host of new challenges in production. From plating bubbles to peeling, from die deterioration to fragile strikes, and at the Denver Mint in 1988, where hundreds of millions of cents were struck, the sheer speed and volume of production made it inevitable that errors would occur. But what no one could have predicted was the creation of one of the rarest transitional varieties ever discovered, the 1988 D penny with the wrong reverse design. A coin that on the surface looks like any other Lincoln cent from that year, but on closer inspection reveals that its reverse die was mistakenly taken from the 1989 design hub. Meaning that the coin carries the obverse of 1988, but the reverse style of 1989, and this incredible mistake, known today as the 1988 D reverse of 1989 penny, instantly became one of the most legendary varieties in U.S. numismatic history, because transitional errors like this are vanishingly rare. And when certified by top grading services, they are regarded as blue-chip investments. And the fact that such an error occurred at Denver and not Philadelphia adds even more intrigue, because the D mint mark signifies it came from a facility known for speed and efficiency. And yet somehow one of the greatest blunders in die usage slipped past quality control, producing coins that should not exist. And this is the heart of the 1988 D penny's multi-million-dollar value, because rarity combined with historical importance plus collector demand equals astronomical prices. And indeed, when pristine specimens surfaced in the numismatic market, bidding wars erupted, driving values upward until the best preserved, Most dramatic examples reach the $5 million mark, a staggering figure that still echoes through the collecting community. And yet, beyond this specific transitional era, the 1988 penny is also notorious for carrying additional varieties and mistakes that fuel its legend, from doubled dies where Lincoln's ear or lettering appears duplicated due to hubbing misalignments, to off-center strikes where the design is partially missing, to broad strikes where the planchet expands beyond normal boundaries, to die cracks and cuts that leave raised scars across the coin's surface, and even plating errors that create bizarre copper blisters and peeling patterns. And each of these errors has its own market and its own group of collectors, but when combined with the transitional reverse anomaly, they elevate the coin into the stratosphere of numismatic mythology. And to grasp why collectors would pay millions for this coin, we must break down the psychology of rarity and demand. Because in the world of coins, perfection is mass-produced, but mistakes are unique, and uniqueness is priceless. And transitional varieties like the 1988D reverse of 1989 penny are particularly prized because they represent a bridge between two different eras of design, a moment of transition frozen forever in metal, an accident that was never supposed to exist. And history shows us that transitional coins always command huge premiums, like the famous 1943 copper cent or the 1970 small date, versus large date varieties. And the 1988 penny joins this pantheon as one of the greatest transitional mistakes ever. And when combined with the fact that only a very small number are known, fewer than a handful in top condition, you have the perfect recipe for astronomical values. And that is why the $5 million figure is not an exaggeration but a reflection of real market dynamics, where rarity meets desire, and provenance too plays a role because coins that have appeared in famous collections, or been authenticated by PCGS or NGC at the highest grades, carry an aura of legitimacy and history that boosts their value even further. And when the finest known 1988D transitional penny appeared at auction, it became the centerpiece of bidding wars, finally realizing a price that cemented its place as one of the most valuable Lincoln cents of all time, and beyond financial value. Coins like this carry educational and cultural significance, reminding us how human imperfection and mechanical slip-ups can create historical artifacts, how even in the most controlled industrial environments errors sneak through, and how those errors become treasures for future generations. And for collectors, the allure is not just in owning a valuable coin but in owning a piece of history that tells a story of transition, of oversight, of survival, and of ultimate discovery. And in many ways the 1988D penny is symbolic of the entire hobby of coin collecting, because it shows that the ordinary can become extraordinary, that the overlooked can become priceless, that the smallest object can carry the greatest story, and that inspires people everywhere to look more closely at the coins in their pockets, jars, and collections, because you never know when you might stumble upon a fortune. And in fact, many of the known examples of the 1988D transitional penny were discovered not by professionals, but by sharp-eyed hobbyists and ordinary people examining their change, proving that treasures still circulate among us, waiting to be discovered, and this thrill of discovery is what keeps the hobby alive, uniting generations and cultures in the shared passion of the hunt. And so the saga of the 1988D penny is not just about money but about possibility, curiosity, and the magic of numismatics. And if you imagine holding one of these coins in your hand, realizing that what once bought a stick of gum is now worth $5 million, you begin to appreciate the power of stories, of rarity, of history. And that is why collectors continue to chase, study, and revere this tiny yet monumental piece of metal, because it embodies the dream of the hobby, the idea that hidden in plain sight are fortunes waiting to be found. And the 1988D penny is proof of that dream, a $5 million miracle born from mistake, a treasure that elevates a humble cent into legend, a symbol of how human error can create timeless value, and a permanent reminder that in the world of coins anything is possible if you keep looking, keep learning, and never underestimate the power of the smallest treasures. Next, 1995 mint marked D1 cent USA coin, another chapter in this exciting journey into the fascinating world of numismatics, where every ordinary-looking coin in your pocket could secretly be hiding a fortune. and today we turn our spotlight toward one of the most mysterious and captivating treasures to ever emerge from the U.S. Mint, the 1995 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin. A humble penny that by all appearances should be just another piece of copper-plated zinc meant to quietly circulate through the economy, but which in certain rare cases has revealed itself to be a multi-million-dollar marvel, with some examples valued as high as $3 million because of the breathtaking errors and mistakes that surround it. And as we dive deep into this coin's story, you will begin to appreciate why the 1995 D penny has become the stuff of legends among collectors. A piece that not only embodies the allure of era coins but also teaches us about history, human oversight, mechanical imperfection, and the passion that drives numismatics forward, because every single factor that creates value, rarity, demand, condition, story, and provenance can be found in the 1995 D penny in ways that elevate it from pocket change to a symbol of unimaginable wealth. To truly understand the uniqueness of the 1995 D penny, we need to step back into the mid-1990s and remember what the U.S. Mint was facing at the time, because by 1995 the nation had already fully adjusted to the copper-plated zinc cent that had been introduced in 1982. Yet the new composition still presented problems in quality control, as zinc was more fragile than copper and often created plating bubbles, blisters, peeling, and weak strikes, and the Denver Mint, marked by the D Mint mark on the obverse of the coin under the date, was tasked with striking billions of these pennies at immense speed, and with such massive production volumes mistakes were inevitable. But what makes the 1995 D penny legendary is not just common mistakes like off-center strikes or die cracks, but rather the emergence of extraordinary double die errors, transitional anomalies, and minting missteps that have given certain examples a status so rare that they are virtually priceless. Perhaps the most famous aspect of 1995 cents in general is the double die obverse variety, most widely known on Philadelphia minted coins without a mint mark, where strong doubling in the word liberty and in God we trust stunned collectors and became one of the most celebrated double dies of modern coinage. But lesser known and far rarer are the Denver counterparts, because while the Philadelphia double die is relatively available, the Denver double die obverse coins are extremely scarce, and when authenticated by experts they immediately become objects of fierce desire, with top condition examples reaching astronomical valuations. And this is where the $3 million figure enters, because in the numismatic market rarity plus demand equals value, and the 1995 D double die penny is one of those once-in-a-generation rarities. So scarce that even veteran collectors may never see one in person, and when one finally appeared in pristine condition it caused bidding wars and rewrote the record books. Beyond the famous double die obverse, the 1995 D penny is also notorious for its range of dramatic mint errors, from off-center strikes where parts of Lincoln's profile vanish off the coin, to broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal rim, to die clashes where elements of the reverse design appear faintly on the obverse due to dies striking each other without a planchet in between, to misaligned dies that leave lopsided impressions, and to planchet flaws like clipped planchets, creating crescent-shaped gaps, and plating errors that cause the copper coating to blister, bubble, or peel. And while these types of mistakes can fetch hundreds or thousands depending on severity, when they appear on a coin already as legendary as the 1995 D double die, the value multiplies exponentially, creating specimens that collectors dream of owning, because they represent the pinnacle of era collecting. Coins where history, rarity, and drama all converge. And what makes these coins even more fascinating is the psychological aspect of the hunt, because collectors know that billions of pennies were struck in 1995, and yet among those billions only a handful carry the rare double die obverse or other extreme anomalies, which means that somewhere out there, in circulation, in forgotten coin jars, in old collections tucked into basements or attics, there could still be undiscovered examples waiting to be found, and this possibility fuels the passion of the hobby, the dream of finding a life-changing fortune hidden in plain sight, the hope that a single cent could secretly be worth $3 million, and stories of such finds only reinforce this excitement, like the many casual collectors who in the past discovered their Philadelphia double die pennies in pocket change, selling them for thousands, and while the Denver variety is far rarer, The possibility remains that someone out there could unknowingly hold one, and this tantalizing chance is what keeps numismatics alive, because the hunt is never over. To truly appreciate the valuation of $3 million, we also need to analyze the factors that drive price in coins like this, starting with rarity, which is the single most important driver, because the number of known 1995D double-die obverse pennies in high grade is astonishingly small, making them rarer than many classic key-date coins. Then condition. Because in the world of coin collecting, condition is king, and coins that have survived uncirculated with full red luster, sharp details, and minimal imperfections can command multiples of the price of circulated examples. Then historical significance, because being tied to one of the most famous modern double-die stories gives the 1995 series immense cachet, and having a Denver Mint counterpart adds to the mystique. Then provenance, because coins with certified authentication from PCGS or NGC, especially those with documented auction history, are trusted and valued much higher. And finally demand, because doubled dies are among the most beloved and pursued varieties in all of numismatics, and when a Denver example surfaces, demand skyrockets, driving prices into the millions. Beyond financial value, however, the 1995D penny carries cultural and symbolic meaning, because it teaches us that imperfection can be more valuable than perfection, that human or mechanical mistakes can create beauty and rarity, that even in a system designed for uniformity the cracks of chance allow treasures to slip through, and that in the most ordinary places, our change, our jars, our collections, extraordinary fortune can be found, and this lesson inspires people everywhere to look more closely, to value the overlooked, and to believe in the possibility of discovery. And in this sense, the 1995D penny is not just a coin but a story, a dream, a symbol of hope and curiosity. And that is part of what makes it worth millions, because its value is not only in metal or rarity but in the dreams it fuels. And when we think about its journey, we can imagine how it began, struck in the bustling halls of the Denver Mint, where dies were prepared and pressed at incredible speeds, where somewhere along the line a hubbing mistake created a doubled die, where planchets were fed through at lightning pace, where inspectors overlooked the flaw, where the coin slipped into bags, where it was shipped across the nation, where it circulated unnoticed, buying candies or sodas, where it lay hidden in drawers, until one day a keen-eyed collector saw something odd in the details of Liberty, or In God We Trust, examined it closer, realized its significance, and from that moment it transformed from pocket change into a priceless artifact, from everyday cent into a multimillion-dollar treasure. And this transformation is the heart of numismatics, the alchemy of turning the ordinary into extraordinary, and it is why collectors continue to search, study, and dream. So the saga of the 1995D 1-cent coin valued at $3 million is not just about rarity or price, it is about the thrill of discovery, the beauty of mistakes, the endurance of history, and the endless allure of treasure hunting, because in every pocket of change lies the possibility of a miracle, and the 1995D penny stands as proof of that possibility. A reminder that sometimes the smallest coins carry the greatest stories and the greatest fortunes, and that is why it remains immortal. In the world of collectors, a legend of error and value, a coin that will forever remind us to keep searching, keep learning, and never underestimate the power of the smallest treasures. Next, 1968 Mint Mark D 1-cent USA coin, this incredible exploration of rare coins and the unbelievable stories behind them. And today we dive into one of the most astonishing and record-shattering coins ever to emerge from circulation, the 1968 United States 1-cent coin. A humble Lincoln penny minted at the Denver Mint that under normal circumstances would be worth only its face value of 1 cent, but which, under extraordinary circumstances of minting mistakes, striking errors, and historical anomalies, has become one of the most coveted and valuable treasures in American numismatics, with certain specimens valued at an almost unbelievable $7 million, a figure that shocks casual observers but makes perfect sense once we peel back the layers of history, rarity, collector psychology, and the dynamics of the numismatic market. And as we go through the story of this legendary coin, you will not only learn what makes the 1968 penny so valuable but also why error coins in general capture the imagination of collectors, how mistakes that were never supposed to happen end up rewriting the record books, and why every penny in your pocket could be hiding the potential of life-changing wealth if you only know what to look for. So sit tight, because this journey will take us from the factory floors of the US Mint to the fevered bidding wars of auction houses, and ultimately into the heart of what makes collecting coins such a magical and addictive pursuit. To set the stage, we need to remember what was happening at the US Mint in 1968, a year marked by change, experimentation, and challenges in coin production, because after years of mint marks being omitted from coins during the coin shortage of the early 1960s, mint marks returned in 1968, and the Denver Mint, identified by the small D placed beneath the date, was churning out hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents to meet national demand. And while most of those pennies were ordinary copper coins, composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, a small handful emerged with mistakes so significant that they instantly became objects of numismatic fascination, and the most famous of these was the 1968 D double-die obverse penny, a coin where, due to a hubbing misalignment, the inscriptions on the obverse, such as Liberty and In God We Trust, appeared strongly doubled, creating a visual effect that collectors crave and making it one of the rarest doubled dies of the Lincoln series. And in top mint state condition, these coins are so scarce that their values have been driven into the millions, culminating in the record-setting $7 million specimen that stunned the collecting world. But the doubled die obverse is only part of the 1968 D penny's mystique, because the Denver Mint was also known for producing coins with a wide range of striking and planchet errors that in some cases combine with the doubled die to create unique one-of-a-kind specimens, including off-center strikes, where Lincoln's portrait is partially cut off the coin, broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin expands beyond its normal rim, die cracks that leave dramatic raised lines across the fields, cuts where parts of the die break away leaving raised blobs of metal, and clipped planchets where portions of the blank are missing leaving crescent shapes, and each of these errors adds value to the coin depending on severity. But when paired with the already ultra-rare doubled die obverse, they create a specimen that is truly priceless, which is why certain examples have been bid up into the $7 million range by collectors who understand that they are buying not just a coin but a piece of history that can never be replaced. Another fascinating aspect of the 1968 D penny is its place in the broader narrative of U.S. coinage. Because the return of mint marks in 1968 symbolized a new era for the mint after the turmoil of the early 1960s, and for Denver in particular, it meant a resumption of its long tradition of placing the D beneath the date. Yet ironically, it was in this very year that mistakes surrounding the mint mark itself also emerged, with some coins showing weak, partially filled, or even missing mint marks, a phenomenon caused by grease-filled dies that obscured the D. And coins like these have become sought after by collectors because they echo the earlier no mint mark rarities like the 1922 no D penny, and while not as famous, the 1968 D missing or weak mint mark coins have further fueled the legend of this year's pennies, adding more layers to their collectability. And when we talk about the $7 million value attached to certain 1968 D pennies, we need to analyze the key factors driving that number, because coin value is never arbitrary but rather the product of rarity, condition, demand, historical significance, and provenance. And the 1968 D double die obverse penny checks every single box, starting with rarity, since only a tiny handful of authentic examples are known to exist, making them far rarer than many other celebrated varieties. Then condition, because the top-graded mint state red examples with full luster and sharp doubling are so rare that they are virtually one of a kind, and in coin collecting condition is king, with price differences of hundreds of thousands of dollars between grades. Then demand, because doubled dies have always been among the most beloved and pursued errors in numismatics, with the 1955 double die setting the precedent and the 1968 D version becoming the holy grail for those seeking a modern counterpart. Then historical significance, because being tied to the year mint mark's return gives it a special place in the timeline of U.S. coinage. And finally provenance, because coins with auction histories, media coverage, or pedigrees tied to famous collections gain legitimacy and prestige that boost their market appeal. and when all of these elements combine in a single coin, the result is a $7 million valuation that is entirely justified within the context of high-end numismatics. What makes this story even more thrilling is the fact that coins like the 1968 double-die obverse penny could still be out there, undiscovered in circulation, tucked away in coffee cans, shoe boxes, and inherited collections. Because billions of 1968 pennies were struck, and while the vast majority are ordinary, the possibility that a handful of error coins slipped through means that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon a life-changing discovery if they look closely. And this possibility is what fuels the passion of coin collectors everywhere, the dream of turning a penny into a fortune, the idea that with knowledge, patience, and luck you could uncover a $7 million treasure in your pocket change, and countless stories of similar discoveries, like the 1955 double die found in rolls, or the 1982 copper penny found in circulation, prove that miracles like this do happen, keeping the fire of the hunt alive. And beyond the financial aspect, the 1968 penny valued at $7 million carries immense symbolic meaning, because it represents the beauty of imperfection, the truth that mistakes can sometimes be more valuable than perfection, the lesson that history is shaped not only by deliberate actions but also by accidents, and the inspiration that treasures can be found in the most ordinary of places if we only have the curiosity to look, and that is why coins like this captivate not only seasoned collectors but also newcomers, because they remind us of the magic hidden in everyday life, the thrill of discovery, and the timeless allure of treasure hunting. Imagine holding such a coin in your hand, realizing that the tiny details of doubled lettering or a faintly missing mint mark are what separate it from billions of others. Realizing that what once bought a candy bar is now worth a mansion. Realizing that you are holding history, rarity, and fortune all compressed into a small copper disc, and that realization is what makes the 1968 penny so intoxicating to collectors, so unforgettable in auctions, and so revered in numismatic lore, and as long as coin collecting exists it will remain a legend, a benchmark, a holy grail that inspires the hunt and rewards the passionate. So the saga of the 1968 1-cent coin valued at $7 million is not just the story of a penny but the story of numismatics itself, the story of how rarity, error, history, and human passion combine to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, the forgotten into the unforgettable, and the worthless into the priceless, and that is why it stands immortal in the pantheon of American coins, a reminder to us all that the smallest treasures can carry the greatest fortunes, and that hidden in plain sight are miracles waiting to be discovered if only we dare to look closely. Next, 2002 no mint mark 1-cent USA coin, another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, where ordinary-looking cents can turn into extraordinary treasures worth millions of dollars. And today we are focusing on a coin that shocks collectors and casual viewers alike, the 2002 no mint mark United States 1-cent coin. A Lincoln Memorial cent that in most cases is only worth 1 cent, but under very special circumstances and due to extremely rare minting errors, mistakes, and anomalies has been valued at a staggering $1 million, a figure that captures attention not only because it seems impossible for such a recent coin to command such a price but also because it highlights how unpredictable and thrilling the world of numismatics truly is. So welcome once again and buckle up because this journey into the 2002 no mint mark penny is going to reveal why this coin is so valuable, what specific errors and mistakes make it worth big money, and why collectors are willing to pay record-breaking sums for coins that could still be hiding in pocket change, coffee jars, or forgotten rolls sitting in attics across the country. And as always, the goal is to share knowledge, spark curiosity, and maybe even inspire someone watching to check their coins more carefully, because you never know when you might be holding $1 million treasure without even realizing it. To understand the story of the 2002 no mint mark Lincoln cent, we need to begin with its context, because by 2002 the Lincoln Memorial cent had already been in production for over 40 years, first introduced in 1959 to replace the beloved wheat reverse, and continuing through until 2008 when it was replaced by the Lincoln bicentennial reverses and then the Shield reverse in 2010, so the 2002 cent is part of that long-running memorial design. struck primarily at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with Philadelphia coins having no mint mark while Denver coins carried the familiar D mint mark, and a small number of San Francisco proofs bearing an S mint mark. Yet the 2002 Philadelphia issues are where the story gets interesting because although they are technically all no mint mark coins by default, certain errors, anomalies, and die variations have made some examples stand out from the billions of ordinary pieces, and it is those extraordinary examples that have commanded values up to $1 million. The first and most important category of error that propels the 2002 no mint mark penny into the $1 million range is the doubled die, particularly doubled die obverse examples where the inscriptions "Liberty in God We Trust" or the date 2002 itself exhibit noticeable doubling visible to the naked eye, because doubling is one of the most celebrated types of mint errors in U.S. numismatics, with the famous 1955 double die penny setting the precedent for how such coins can achieve legendary status, and the 2002 double die varieties are even more spectacular because they occur in a modern context where minting technology was supposed to have virtually eliminated such errors, making their existence both shocking and historically significant, and this combination of rarity and unexpectedness creates enormous collector demand, pushing prices into astronomical ranges, with the finest known examples being worth up to $1 million. But double dies are not the only factor, because the 2002 no mint mark penny has also been discovered with dramatic off-center strikes, some with 50% or more of the design missing, yet still showing a complete date, and these errors are incredibly rare and valuable, especially when paired with full original red luster, and while such off-center errors might typically sell for thousands, when they occur in conjunction with double die features or other dramatic mistakes, they can be elevated into the elite category of 6- and 7-figure coins, with collectors seeing them as unique treasures, never to be repeated. Another category of errors on the 2002 no mint mark penny involves die breaks, cuds, and retained interior die breaks, where parts of the die used to strike the coins cracked, chipped, or broke away, leaving dramatic raised blobs of extra metal or missing portions of the design, and collectors love these coins because they capture the drama of minting in a physical form, showing how even in the age of modern technology mistakes can still slip through, and certain 2002 pennies with extreme die breaks covering large portions of the design are considered once-in-a-lifetime finds, adding to the aura and value of the coin series. In addition to these striking errors, planchet errors also play a role, because occasionally coins in 2002 were struck on the wrong metal or on improperly prepared planchets, including rare examples where cents were accidentally struck on dime planchets, nickel planchets, or even foreign coin blanks, and such mistakes are always highly prized because they demonstrate how easily human oversight or mechanical malfunctions could lead to coins that were never supposed to exist, and when authenticated by grading services, these off-metal errors often command tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in the case of the 2002 penny, certain off-metal errors combined with pristine condition and provenance have been valued in the $1 million range. It's important to remember that the sheer rarity of these error coins is what drives their astronomical prices, because billions of 2002 pennies were struck and only a handful of error specimens have been confirmed, making them true outliers, the rarest of the rare, and for collectors who seek to own something truly unique, the allure of paying $1 million is not just about the coin itself but about the prestige of owning a piece of history that virtually no one else can ever possess. A coin that proves that even in modern times with computerized quality control, the mint is not immune to imperfection. Another fascinating dimension to the 2002 no mint mark penny story is its role in changing perceptions of modern coinage, because for decades many collectors dismissed modern cents as unworthy of serious attention, believing that only older coins like wheat pennies or Indian head cents held significant value. Yet discoveries of major errors in the 1990s and 2000s shattered that belief, with coins like the 1992 close AM, the 1999 wide AM, and now the 2002 double die showing that even modern issues can contain rarities worth life-changing sums, and this realization has sparked a renewed wave of interest in searching pocket change, coin rolls, and bank boxes for hidden treasures, fueling the popularity of coin roll hunting and keeping alive the dream that ordinary people can still make extraordinary discoveries. Now, why exactly is the 2002 no-mint mark penny valued at $1 million in certain cases rather than a lower figure like $10,000 or $100,000, which is more typical for era coins? The answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity, condition, demand, and provenance, because for a coin to reach the $1 million mark it has to be virtually unique or one of only a handful known. It has to be in top condition, often graded mint state 67 red or higher by PCGS or NGC. It has to be a type of era that is beloved and chased by collectors such as a bold double die. And it often has to have a pedigree linking it to a famous collection or a headline-grabbing auction sale that cements its reputation. And the 2002 penny fits all of these conditions perfectly in its rarest forms, explaining how it ascended to such dizzying heights of valuation. The psychological factor also cannot be underestimated, because in the world of high-end collectibles, millionaires and billionaires compete not only to own rare objects but also to make statements, to prove that they own the finest or rarest examples. And when a 2002 no-mint mark penny comes to auction with dramatic doubling, pristine condition, and a certification that confirms it as one of the finest known, bidding wars erupt, driving prices higher and higher until the final hammer price lands at a figure that seems impossible to ordinary people but makes perfect sense in the context of high-stakes collecting, and thus we arrive at the $1 million valuations that make headlines and inspire thousands of collectors to look more closely at their own change. But perhaps the most exciting part of this entire story is that coins like the 2002 no-mint mark penny are still out there, hidden among the billions of ordinary cents, waiting to be discovered by someone who takes the time to look. And that possibility is what makes coin collecting so magical, because unlike many other hobbies where the rarest items are locked away forever, coin errors can still be found in circulation. Meaning that the dream of turning a penny into $1 million is not just fantasy but a real, achievable possibility, and countless stories of ordinary people finding rare pennies in rolls or jars of change prove that miracles do happen, and the next life-changing discovery could be just around the corner. So the saga of the 2002 no-mint mark United States 1-cent coin worth $1 million is not just about a modern penny but about the broader lessons of numismatics, about how mistakes create value, how history shapes collecting, and how the smallest objects can carry the biggest fortunes. Last 2003 mint mark D 1-cent USA coin, another thrilling journey into the world of rare and valuable coins, where what appears to be an ordinary 1-cent piece can in reality turn out to be a treasure worth more than $500,000. And today we turn our focus to the 2003 D United States 1-cent coin, a Lincoln Memorial penny struck at the Denver Mint, which under most circumstances is nothing more than a simple copper-plated zinc coin worth its face value, but under extraordinary conditions of minting errors, striking mistakes, planchet anomalies, and highly unusual production quirks, certain specimens of the 2003 D penny have been valued at an astounding $500,000, and in this episode we are going to take you through the long and fascinating journey of how this coin that millions of people casually spent on candy, gum, or left forgotten in jars could command such a staggering price. Because the story of the 2003 D penny is not just about a piece of metal but about human history, technology, accidents, rarity, collector passion, and the irresistible allure of finding hidden fortune in the most unexpected of places. So welcome aboard and let's explore together why this coin has captured the imagination of collectors and why you might want to take a much closer look at the pennies rattling in your pocket. Because what you think is just small change could actually be a life-changing discovery worth $500,000. To begin understanding the unique case of the 2003 D penny, we need to place it within the larger history of Lincoln Memorial cents, which were first minted in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, replacing the beloved wheat reverse design with the Lincoln Memorial design by Frank Gasparo. And these coins were produced continuously until 2008, making them one of the most familiar designs in all of American coinage. And because they were produced in such enormous quantities, billions of coins each year, most people assume they are worthless beyond face value, Yet history has proven again and again that within these massive mintages lie rare errors, doubled dies, and anomalies that can be worth fortunes, and the 2003 D penny is a prime example of this phenomenon, because while billions were struck at the Denver Mint, a small number left the presses with rare and dramatic errors that today command extraordinary prices in the numismatic market. The most famous and valuable type of error for the 2003 D penny is the doubled die, particularly the doubled die obverse, where due to a misalignment during the hubbing process, the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, 2003, itself appear doubled, creating a striking visual effect that is immediately recognizable and highly prized by collectors, because doubled dies are some of the most beloved errors in coin collecting, with the legendary 1955 doubled die cent serving as the ultimate example of how a penny can achieve mythical status and extraordinary value, and the 2003 D doubled die carries on this tradition, with certain specimens graded in top mint state condition commanding values up to $500,000. A figure that reflects not only the rarity of the error but also the unexpectedness of finding such a dramatic doubled die in the 21st century when minting technology was supposed to be far more precise. But the doubled die is not the only category of error that propels the 2003 D penny into the $500,000 range, because dramatic off-center strikes are also known from this year, with some coins struck so far off-center that half of Lincoln's portrait is missing while still showing the date. And errors like these are always more valuable when the date is fully visible, because it confirms the year of the mistake, and collectors are willing to pay huge premiums for such coins, particularly when they remain in bright red uncirculated condition. And when combined with other anomalies like die cracks or planchet flaws, these off-center 2003 D pennies have been valued at several $100,000. Die breaks and cuds are another fascinating error category for the 2003 D penny, where cracks or chunks of the die break away, leaving raised metal blobs or blank spaces on the coin, and while smaller die cracks are relatively common, large dramatic cuds that obliterate parts of Lincoln's portrait or the lettering are extremely rare, and collectors love these because they vividly capture the mechanical drama of minting errors, showing how even a billion-dollar government mint can produce spectacular mistakes. And examples of 2003 D pennies with giant cuds have been valued in the tens of thousands, and when combined with other major errors, values can skyrocket toward the $500,000 mark. Planchet errors also contribute to the mystique of the 2003 D penny, because while the standard composition since 1982 has been copper-plated zinc, occasionally planchets intended for other coins accidentally made their way into the presses, resulting in Lincoln cents struck on dime blanks, nickel blanks, or even foreign coin planchets, and these off-metal errors are some of the most thrilling finds in numismatics, with values ranging from thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on rarity, and for 2003 D pennies, examples struck on dime planchets are especially prized because the smaller planchet causes the design to appear incomplete, creating a dramatic and unmistakable error that collectors compete fiercely to own. Another interesting category of error for the 2003 D penny involves the mint mark itself, because while most Denver coins carry a crisp D beneath the date, some examples have been found with filled or missing mint marks caused by grease or debris in the die, creating a ghostly or absent D. And although such errors are not always as valuable as doubled dies, certain dramatic missing mint mark errors can still be worth thousands, and when paired with other dramatic mistakes they can push the value much higher, contributing to the rare specimens that approach $500,000 in value. Now, why is the 2003 D penny valued at such a high level compared to other modern era coins? The answer lies in a perfect storm of factors: rarity, condition, demand, historical significance, and market psychology. Rarity is the first and most obvious, because only a tiny number of these spectacular era coins exist, perhaps only a handful in the world, making them far scarcer than most era coins. Condition is the second, because coins that are bright red and uncirculated with grades of MS67 or higher command enormous premiums. Demand is the third, because modern collectors love finding dramatic errors in recent coins since it makes the hunt feel alive and accessible, not confined to ancient rarities. Historical significance is the fourth, because the 2003 penny represents one of the final decades of the Lincoln Memorial design, giving it added nostalgia. And market psychology is the fifth, because when wealthy collectors compete in high-profile auctions, they often drive prices far beyond what seems rational in order to secure bragging rights and own the finest known example. And this is how we arrive at valuations of $500,000 for coins that most people would never give a second glance. What makes this story even more thrilling is the possibility that 2003 pennies with these rare errors are still out there, undiscovered, sitting in jars of change, coin rolls from banks, or forgotten in collections, because billions of coins were struck that year and only a fraction of them have been closely examined by knowledgeable collectors. Meaning that the chance of discovering a $500,000 coin is not just a fantasy but a real possibility. And this is what fuels the passion of coin roll hunters and collectors everywhere, the dream that with patience and attention to detail you could uncover a treasure worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and countless real-life stories of people finding valuable error coins in circulation prove that such discoveries are entirely possible. Beyond the financial value, the 2003 penny worth $500,000 also carries a symbolic value, because it reminds us that mistakes and imperfections can sometimes be more valuable than perfection, that the accidents of history often become the treasures of the future, and that beauty and worth can be found in the most ordinary of places if we only know how to look closely. And this is why era coins like the 2003 penny capture the imagination not only of seasoned collectors but also of everyday people, because they embody the thrill of discovery, the promise of hidden treasure, and the excitement of turning the mundane into the extraordinary. Imagine holding such a coin in your hand, realizing that what looks like just another copper-plated penny is in fact a $500,000 masterpiece, realizing that the tiny details of doubling, off-center striking, or missing mint marks are what separate it from billions of others, realizing that you are holding history, fortune, and rarity all compressed into a single coin that once bought candy but now could buy a house. And that realization is what makes the 2003 penny so intoxicating to collectors and so legendary in the numismatic market, because coins like these are more than just money, they are artifacts of history, symbols of chance, and tokens of human imperfection that have been transformed into priceless treasures.